Now, I know you guys, Joe Biden's not going to be the president for much longer. And Donald Trump won. We're all excited. He hasn't really been in the news except for, pardoning his son. I know. But he fell asleep. He fell asleep at this summit of African leaders. And it harkens back to the good old days a couple of years ago when Joe Biden was the front runner. And Sleepy Joe, they called him Sleepy Joe, says Donald Trump. Ah, yes, the good old days. From the Telegraph, watch Biden appears to fall asleep at meeting with African presidents. Boy, I'd say we dodged a bullet, but this man has been president for 4 years. So we didn't. But at the very least, I'm really excited that we'll be moving on from this horrible cycle in American history. The incident in Angola is the latest in which President Biden has been accused of nodding off or committing a gaffe on the world stage. And there's a video. There's a video. That's it. Bro, he's sleeping. Look at him. Look at him. He's sleeping. He doesn't care that he's there. Now, I will say, it's funny to discuss the fact that our president is asleep on the job. The scarier thing is that he's pledging $1 billion to these countries. And we got people in North Carolina who are sleeping in tents. So that's a disgrace, my friends. It's a disgrace. But you know what? My friends? Sometimes you can't help it. You can't help it. You fall asleep. Well, we have the remedy for you. It's Cast Brew Coffee over at castbrew.com. However, this time we're not here to wake you up. No, I couldn't resist. We have our decaf blend over at Cast Brew Coffee. Sleepy Joe will be in the description below, linked in the description below. There's only, we only do a couple hundred of these because decaf's not a big seller, but pick up your Sleepy Joe, aptly named. It's decaf coffee and it's funny. Anyway, here's the story. During a speech by Philip Mpango, the vice president of Tanzania, Mr. Biden closed his eyes and rested his hand on his face, appearing to be asleep. He then appeared to wake up before closing his eyes again. Although Mr. Biden was wearing an earpiece usually used for translation, all participants on the panel were speaking in English at the time. The incident came on the final day of a 3-day trip to Angola, Mr. Biden's first bilateral visit to Africa since taking office in 2021. A lot of people are pointing out that he pardons his son and then flees the country. Not only the country, but the continent. And then he fell asleep. Well, we get it. There's another video where he's being handled like a toddler, and it's horrifying. One of the I don't know who it was, but they're like walking Biden. They're holding his hand, and he's stumbling and confused. Man, I'm glad he dropped out. The dude, we are lucky on this one, but I do think he would not have won if he was running. I don't think Kamala could have won either. Now that we know that their internal polling had shown that she was always behind. Wednesday's Libido Corridor Trans-Africa Summit featured several African leaders and took place after a busy morning of visits to a port, terminal, and food processing factory. Looks great, doesn't it? Mr. Biden has previously acknowledged that he struggles with the demands of international travel, blaming his performance in a disastrous debate against Trump on visiting Europe. I believe he had 2 weeks after that trip, and he still was not back into tip-top shape. Well, here's the big news. Right, here's what's pissing everybody off. Biden is pledging $1 billion in aid to Africa as North Carolina residents continue to struggle after Helene. Social media users fumed over Biden's decision to help foreign country before his own. Indeed.
The United States continues to be the world's largest provider of humanitarian aid and development assistance. And that's going to increase. That's the right thing for the wealthiest nation in the world to do. And today,
scumbag.
I'm announcing over $1 billion in new humanitarian support for Africans displaced from homes by historic droughts and food insecurity. We know African leaders and citizens are seeking more than just aid. You seek investment. So the United States is expanding our relationship all across Africa, from assistance to aid, to investment to trade, moving from patrons to partners.
Yeah, we get it.
The infrastructure gap.
Here's a man who's saying we are going to increase our aid to Africa. How about okay? I mean, can we keep half of it? Can we send $500 million to the people in North Carolina so they have aid as well? I mean, this is brutal stuff, man. They say President Biden pledged $1 billion in humanitarian support as North Carolina residents continue to rebuild. We've got videos of these people sleeping in tents, and it's cold out. That's brutal. Biden's visit to Angola this week marks the first time the president has stepped foot on African soil during his presidency, and it comes as people in North Carolina continue to face struggles. Last month, the White House requested $98 billion in additional disaster relief funding to help efforts in Helene-lavished areas. Congressional leaders on both sides of the aisle have pledged to act swiftly once they get a formal request from the Biden administration. On top of that, FEMA Administrator Deanne Criswell told reporters last month that her agency will need additional funding of approximately $40 billion beyond its 2025 budget request to support the ongoing recovery efforts to these storms and meet our overall mission requirements through the end of the year. Now, I can already hear the fact checks. They're saying, Tim, they're already allocating funds. I don't care. Not a fact check. The point is, $0 of our money should be going anywhere if our people are suffering. That's just it. You want to give our money away? Sure. Only after our border is secure, everybody's got a job, and there's going to be some degree of unemployment. You need that's true. But look at this photo. Married couple Victoria and Jeff stay on the street with their dog after Hurricane Helene destroyed their motorhome about a month ago in Asheville, North Carolina. Need help, lost everything in the flood. It's just brutal stuff, man. You want to give our money away, our tax dollars, and we've got, you're giving it to Ukraine, you're giving it to Sudan, you're giving it to Afghanistan, you're giving it to Israel. Why? They don't justify it. They argue that it's a need to know and you don't need to know. Okay, the American people are doing labor every single day, and we're wondering why our taxes are so high. And see, this is what makes it so hard for me on the tax thing, because I'm a liberal guy. You know, I like Steve Bannon. Steve Bannon says tax the rich. And I'm like, Steve, that's a left populist position. So I don't care. These people are ripping you off. And I'm like, yes. Now, I myself am a well-off individual. I pay an exorbitant amount of taxes. And so the problem is, I got no problem with a certain degree of taxation, a certain degree. It's that it's used by evil people for evil ends, and the American people suffer. So if someone were to come to me and say taxation is theft, I'd be like, I get it. You're not wrong. I'll tell you why. I would say our taxation is theft, because the general idea of if we were like, hey, guys, look, there's a small percentage that we're going to take from sales tax, for instance, and it's going to cover a certain cost to maintain certain things. OK, tariffs. OK, income tax. I don't know about income tax, but there's a way to tax things. As long as the taxes are agreed upon and how they're allocated is agreed upon. The problem is I'm spending all this money on a federal government that has left our own citizens to die. What do I have to do? Do I have to donate 100% of my income in order to make sure that it goes to the right place? Yep. That's how insane it is. When you make a donation, like let's say you donate $100. They don't take $100 off your taxes. I know most of you understand deductions. No. They take it off your taxable income. So you still owe money. Yeah. It's unfortunate that we have to live in this system. But I do think with the populist wave that we've seen, things like this, it's at risk. I'll say that to the least. Donald Trump has floated the idea of eliminating the income tax in favor of tariffs only. It's not going to happen. He's doing that to scare these other countries into giving us what we want. But I'm for it. And the argument from the left is, but it's going to cause inflation. Imported goods are going to I don't care. We should be making everything we need here at home. And we do international trade for things we can't get. It's easier to grow avocados in Mexico. It costs a little bit more money. But don't worry, you're going to have more money in your pocket. With a better economy, a better culture, more industry, you're not going to worry about paying extra for an imported good. You're going to have all that money in your pocket, and you're going to have more jobs here at home. So I tell you this, libertarians, you win. The government could convince a person like me to say, tax the rich, along with Steve Bannon. I always bring Steve Bannon in there because you say, Tim, you're crazy. You tell Bannon he's crazy when he said it. Because I don't completely agree, but I largely agree that you got people like Soros and other billionaires who are ripping us off. They're funneling money to the system. They're screwing us over. But taxing them doesn't solve the problem. There is a way to have a progressive tax so long as the taxes are apportioned appropriately, but they're not. The Pentagon is a black hole of missing funds. We're giving $1 billion to Africa, and I ain't going to have none of it. So for the time being, I'll say this. Until you can actually tell me where my money is going, taxation is theft. If a firefighter comes to me and says, hey, we need $10 a month. Everybody puts in $10, you got a fire department. I say, okay, I know where that money's going. The police, same thing. I know where that money's going. But the Pentagon, it's a black hole. So when they say we've got people on the streets who can't live here, and Joe Biden's attitude is we're going to give $1 billion to Africa, I'm just like, yeah, taxation is theft. Screw you guys. You don't deserve a penny as long as you're doing this. I'm going to wrap it up there. Smash that like button. Share the show with everyone you know. We got one more segment coming up. Stick around, and we'll see you all shortly.